Hello, flutists. In this episode of Stage Etiquette, I wanted to bring up the topic of attitude, having a good attitude and being a good colleague, and how important that is. When I reflect back on my long freelancing career of 30 plus years and ongoing, I believe that I've been able to be in the game for so long because I've shown to have a good attitude and maybe a correct attitude in different situations and possible difficult situations. Really an essential skill, especially for freelancers. The reason why I say it's especially important for freelancers, I mean, everyone should strive to have a good attitude, sure. But the reason why it's especially important for freelancers is because you are being looked at to possibly being rehired based on much more than just your playing. Of course, you need to be a good flute player, a good player. But really, if you're a difficult person, or you're not workable, or you have a bad attitude, those things are going to get you not hired again immediately, because there are literally hundreds of other flute players to take your place. This, of course, doesn't mean you have to go into an orchestra rehearsal and be fake, be overly friendly and overly concerned about everyone. That's not what I mean at all. I just mean being pleasant, not overly complaining, not being difficult, not showing visible signs of being bored or annoyed, or you hate the repertoire we might be doing, or especially showing visible disdain for the conductor. It's especially rude. And those sorts of things really everyone else notices, and no one wants to be around that. It's just something to remember, that your attitude carries out beyond your flute playing, and it's just as important as your flute playing to getting hired again. So these basic good manners that I said are the same as basic life skills. Those would be on time, be prepared, show that you've done your work, don't complain unnecessarily, don't talk badly about other musicians, show respect for your colleagues, those sorts of things. On the topic of don't complain unnecessarily, I mean, of course, musicians, myself included, we complain or vent about something that we didn't care for, but just know there's a time and a place for everything. At the actual rehearsal or the concert on the stage, that is not the time to show, by rolling your eyes or whispering something to somebody that you are unhappy about something. It's not the place. It just makes you look unprofessional. When all the musicians might go out for dinner afterwards or drinks or something, and people are talking about what they don't like about the repertoire or whatever, yeah, that's the time to do that, but not in the rehearsal, not on the stage. Also, while I'm thinking about it, on the topic of knowing sort of when to complain, with your colleagues, I would just say, in my experience with subbing in full-time orchestras, that if you're a freelancer, generally speaking, you're going to have like 2 to 4 hour commute, and you have a lot of difficulties that the full-timers don't have. I would advise, don't ever complain about your experience being a freelancer and how it took you 4 hours in the snowstorm and you had to eat your breakfast, in the parking lot, and these sorts of things that only freelancers are going to understand. The full-time person's going to look at you, first of all, they don't care, and then second of all, they can't relate in any way. They drove 10 minutes and they had breakfast at their kitchen table. They have no idea what you're talking about. And you just sound like a big complainer. So I have found that just from personal experience, like knowing right away, like, oh, I shouldn't say that to that person. So you have to use common sense and know who you're complaining to. Read the room. A few months ago, I interviewed a principal flute player in the greater Chicago area who talked about things like attitude for subs and what might someone do in regards to attitude to take them off the sub list. And this interview is with Jean Bishop, and I'll link that interview in the description. I would highly recommend to check that out. So just so you know what a principal flute, what sorts of things are considered good manners, basic good stage etiquette, and what is considered bad stage etiquette enough to get you taken off their sub list. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned correct attitude versus good attitude, and so we covered good attitude. Having, there's probably a better way to describe it, but what I feel is like having a correct attitude is really essential also for being a long-time freelancer. And in my personal experience, this has been especially in how you deal and respond to in a professional way with a difficult person. And this has always been a situation where I'm subbing in a full-time orchestra and you have a difficult person maybe within your section or even in the whole wind section that you just have to deal with. And I have so many stories. They'll be for a different video. But there's ways to do this without being fake, without showing that you're offended, without being upset. One of the most basic examples, and this is not even like a difficult person, but just as an example, like if you're sitting second flute and the principal flute leans over and says, that needs to be way less, and you weren't even playing because she or he had already told you to be super, super soft. So you were just like airplane and just like, that needs to be way less. So you don't go, oh my God, you can't show that you're completely irritated and annoyed at this unreasonable person. You just say, okay, and you just pretend to mark something. Sometimes if it just seems unreasonable, you just pretend. And you just say, okay, and you do it. And then you continue to airplay. There's only so much you can do. Or, all kinds of examples like that. Just do as you're instructed without feeling that even if you feel it's totally incorrect, somebody from the principal oboe can say, flute, your pitch is too high, it needs to be lower, and you think, no, it's not. But you just do it. You try to be a team player. And I guess what I'm getting at, it's how you respond to those requests that sometimes seem overkill or unnecessary or are presented to you in a rude way. That happens quite a bit. And the response is not to be rude back or not to portray that you know what's best and they don't. And you just respond and say, okay, mark your part, get on with life. But another example of dealing with a difficult person with kind of non-musical things and how you respond to them is one time I was subbing in a full-time orchestra and the principal flute leaned over and just said, you have perfume on, or your shampoo you're wearing, it has a perfume. And like, I wear no makeup, I don't have any perfumey anything at all. And I just said, no, it's not me. And she insisted that it was me and reported me to the personnel manager, and the personnel manager had to send out this whole, mass email to everyone. Remember, dress code and no perfumes, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't respond in throwing a fit or talking to the personnel manager saying, I didn't do it, I assume she knows, because if you're dealing with a difficult person, they're always difficult. So everyone knows that. And then the next day, and this flute player had asked me to go get different shampoo. So just crazy person. So she had me go get different shampoo, or requested that I did. Next rehearsal, next day, she said, do you have different shampoo? And I said, yes, even though of course I didn't. So I just said, yes, being pleasant, and then just got back to warming up. And somehow it just passed. So like how you respond and how you deal with people that are difficult is everything. Because I could have been never called again because that difficult person decides whether I'm hired again. So you just need to be professional, not easily offended, sure of yourself, but also adjustable and trying to be a team player as best you can in difficult situations. Okay, so in summary, how you show yourself to be, your attitude, really other people pick up on and notice. And no one wants to work with a difficult person if they can help it. So if you're a freelancer, you can just be replaced. All right, if you felt this video was helpful, please hit subscribe, and then you'll be in the loop with future videos like this, and also all videos on all things freelancing. Thanks for watching.